Is it really that hard to count to 2, Sienna? Or did you skip that day at whatever community college actually gave you a degree? Sienna froze in the middle of the bustling Nexus Global lobby, her sneakers squeaking on the polished marble. She was currently a human leaning tower of caffeine, balancing a cardboard carrier with 6 boiling lattes in one hand and a stack of Liam's dry cleaning in the other. Chloe, a woman who looked like she had been sculpted out of expensive highlighter and spite, stared down at the cups. She pointed a manicured finger at a stray drop of foam on the lid. I asked for 2 pumps of sugar-free vanilla. This feels like 3, Chloe sneered, glancing at the group of laughing executives nearby. Liam, how do you live with this? Your wife is about as graceful as a baby giraffe on roller skates. Liam Sterling, the man Sienna had spent 3 years supporting, the man whose late-night coding sessions she had fueled with homemade sandwiches and her own life savings, didn't even look up from his tablet. He just adjusted his $800 blazer and sighed. She's striving for mediocrity. Chloe, don't be too hard on her, Liam said, his voice flat and devoid of the warmth he used to have when they were sharing Raymond in a studio apartment. Sienna, just go clean it up. And don't trip this time. I have a board meeting, and I can't have the intern smelling like a barista. Sienna bit her lip, her eyes downcast. I'm sorry, Liam, I'll go get a replacement. That's Mr. Sterling at the office, Sienna, he snapped. Level 4, now. As she turned to head toward the elevators, Sienna's foot accidentally caught the edge of a decorative planter. She let out a small oof as she stumbled. The coffee carrier tilted precariously, splashing a dark, hot streak of espresso directly onto Chloe's white suede pumps. My shoes! Chloe shrieked. Oh no, I'm so clumsy, Sienna cried, her voice high and breathless. Though if anyone had looked closely at her eyes, they would have seen a spark of cold, calculating mischief. You idiot! Liam roared, stepping forward. Get out of my sight. Go to the break room and stay there until I come deal with you. Sienna scurried away, her head bowed. But as soon as the elevator doors slid shut, her posture shifted. The clumsy girl vanished. She stood tall, pulled a slim, encrypted smartphone from her apron pocket, and tapped a message to the global CFO. Sienna, Branch 42, audit the marketing expenses. Liam is billing the company for Chloe's shoes. Also, the vanilla syrup is expired. Fix it. 2 hours later, the office was quiet. Most of the staff were at a celebratory lunch for the deal of the year that Liam had supposedly closed. Sienna sat in the break room, a single, sad-looking cupcake sitting on a napkin in front of her. It had 1 candle stuck in the middle. 3 years. Today was their 3rd wedding anniversary. The door swung open. Liam walked in, but he wasn't alone. Chloe was draped over his arm, smelling of Chanel No. 5 and Triumph. Oh, look, Chloe giggled, pointing at the cupcake. It's a party for one. How depressing. Sienna looked up, trying to keep her voice trembling. Liam, I thought, maybe tonight we could go to that Italian place? The one where we had our first date? Liam didn't sit down. He pulled a thick manila envelope from his briefcase and tossed it onto the table, knocking the cupcake onto the floor. The Italian place is closed, Sienna. Just like this marriage, Liam said. Sienna stared at the cupcake, now smashed in the dirt. What? I'm moving up, Sienna, Liam said, his voice brimming with a new, ugly arrogance. The CEO of the parent company is flying in tomorrow to personally vet me for the vice president position. I'm going to be a global player. I'm going to be traveling to Paris, London, Tokyo. He leaned over the table, his eyes cold. Look at you. You're an intern. You're a sweet girl who makes great sandwiches, but you have no presence. You're dead weight. When I walk into a gala, I need a woman like Chloe, a woman who knows which fork to use and how to talk to billionaires. Not a woman who trips over her own feet in the lobby. So, because I'm not classy enough? Sienna whispered. Because you're a ceiling, Sienna. You're the limit to my potential, Liam said. Inside that envelope is a divorce settlement. I'm giving you the apartment, mostly, because I'm buying a penthouse tomorrow anyway, and $50,000. Sign it, and you're free to go back to whatever small town you crawled out of. Chloe smirked, reaching out to pat Sienna's cheek. Don't feel too bad, honey. Some people are born to lead and some are born to... Well, fetch coffee. Sienna looked at the papers. She looked at the man she had loved. The man she had secretly funded by funneled anonymous grants into his startup years ago. You're sure about this, Liam? No regrets? The only regret I have is waiting this long, Liam said, checking his gold watch. Oh, and by the way, you're fired. I can't have my ex-wife lurking in the break room while I'm running the company. Sienna picked up a pen. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She signed her name with a flourish that was far too elegant for a community college intern. There, she said, sliding the papers back. It's done. Good. Now get your things and get out, Liam said, already turning to Chloe. Come on, babe. Let's go look at that Ferrari. Sienna watched them leave. She waited exactly 60 seconds. Then, she reached into her pocket and pulled out her second phone. The one made of titanium and sapphire glass. She dialed a number. It was picked up on the first ring. This is the Chairwoman, Sienna said, her voice dropping into a low, commanding tone that would have made Liam's blood run cold. The undercover internship is over. I've seen enough. Cancel the VP promotion for the Branch 42 manager. In fact, cancel his life. I'm coming to the head office tomorrow morning. Tell the board to wear their best suits. It's going to be a bloodbath. She stood up, stepped over the smashed cupcake, and walked out of the break room. She didn't trip once. The rain began to drum against the windows of the apartment as Sienna packed. It was a modest place, chosen, specifically by her years, ego to fit the struggling young couple, narrative she had wanted to live. Now it felt like a cage she was finally unlocking. She was folding a plain cotton shirt when the front door burst open. Brenda, Liam's mother, marched in with a roll of heavy-duty trash bags and a face full of rehearsed pity. She was wearing a knockoff designer, tracksuit and enough costume jewelry to rattle when she breathed. Oh, still here? Brenda clucked her tongue, heading straight for the kitchen cabinets. Liam told me the news. Honestly, dear, it's for the best. You were always a bit beige for a man of his color. Sienna didn't look up. Hello, Brenda. I'm almost done. Well, hurry it up. Chloe wants to come over and see which walls she wants to knock down for the renovation, Brenda said, grabbing a ceramic vase from the mantel. It was a dusty, unassuming piece with a faded blue glaze. I'll take this. It'll look nice in my guest bathroom. That was a gift from my grandmother, Sienna said quietly. It's the only thing I'm sentimental about. Please, it's a piece of junk from a garage sale, Brenda laughed, tossing it carelessly into a trash bag filled with Sienna's old sneakers. Clunk. Consider it a storage fee for the 3 years you lived off my son's hard work. Sienna watched the bag. That junk was a Song Dynasty relic her grandfather had gifted her when she turned 18. It was worth more than the entire apartment building. You're right. Brenda, Sienna said, a strange, sharp light entering her eyes. Keep it. In fact, keep everything I leave behind. You're going to need the assets soon. Assets? Honey, the only asset you have is that cheap shampoo you use, Brenda mocked. Suddenly, Sienna's phone buzzed on the bed. The caller ID showed a name that would make any global economist break into a cold sweat. Marcus, big bro. Sienna stepped into the bathroom and locked the door. What is it, Marcus? I heard the news, her brother's voice boomed. He was the CEO of the European division, a man known for being as ruthless as he was protective. The family plane is fueled. I'm 5 minutes away with the motorcade. Do you want me to level the building? I can buy the block and turn it into a parking lot by midnight. Don't be dramatic, Marcus, Sienna said, checking her reflection in the mirror. She wiped away a smudge of intern soot from her cheek. I want the full executive restoration. I'm meeting Liam at the head office tomorrow. He thinks he's being vetted for VP. He's being vetted for the unemployment line, Marcus growled. See you at the curb, sis. Sienna walked out of the bathroom to find Brenda, stuffing her favorite wool coat into a bag. I'm going now, Sienna said, picking up her small suitcase. Good riddance. Don't forget to leave the keys on the counter. And don't try to call Liam. He's blocked your number. He's a global vice president now. He doesn't talk to the help. Sienna walked out the door and down the stairs. As she stepped onto the sidewalk, the rain was coming down in sheets. Across the street, 3 black SUVs with tinted windows pulled up. The doors opened simultaneously. 6 men in umbrellas stepped out, forming a corridor. At the end of the line stood Marcus, looking like he'd stepped off the cover of GQ and into a war zone. He draped a $10,000 cashmere coat over Sienna's shoulders. "You look terrible," Marcus said, kissing her forehead. "That poor girl aesthetic really didn't suit you." "I was happy, Marcus. For a while." "Well, now you can be rich and miserable like the rest of us," he teased, ushering her into the back of the lead car. "We have the stylist waiting at the hotel. You have 14 hours to turn back into the chairwoman of Nexus Global." Sienna looked out the window as they drove past her old apartment. She saw Liam's car pulling into the driveway, Chloe in the passenger seat. They were laughing. "Marcus?" "Yeah?" "Tell the legal team to look into the vase Brenda just stole. I want her charged with grand larceny the second the divorce decree is finalized." "But not before tomorrow." Marcus grinned. "Consider it done." The Nexus Global headquarters was a cathedral of glass. Liam stood in the lobby, checking his reflection every 30 seconds. He was wearing his best suit, his hair slicked back. "Today's the day, Chloe," he said, beaming. "Once I get that VP title, we're moving to the London office. We'll be royalty." "I'm so proud of you, baby," Chloe said, clutching her designer bag. "And thank God that mousy little intern is gone. I can finally breathe." The elevator dinged. A hush fell over the lobby. The global CFO, a man Liam had only seen in magazines, walked toward them. "Mr. Sterling," the CFO said, his face unreadable. "The chairwoman is ready for you in the boardroom. She's very interested in your performance." "The chairwoman?" Liam's heart fluttered. "I thought the chairman was a man." "The chairwoman took over the trust last night," the CFO replied. "And she's already made some significant changes." Liam straightened his tie, puffed out his chest, and stepped into the elevator. He had no idea he was walking into the mouth of a shark he had spent 3 years sharing a bed with. The air in the 50th floor boardroom was so thick with tension, it felt like a physical weight. Liam walked in, his heels clicking confidently on the Brazilian rosewood floors. He saw a semicircle of the world's most powerful directors, men and women who controlled the flow of billions, all sitting in absolute silence. At the head of the table, the high-backed executive chair was turned toward the window, overlooking the skyline. Good morning, everyone," Liam said, his voice booming with a false sense of belonging. He didn't wait to be invited. He pulled out a chair near the head. "I'm Liam Sterling. I assume you've all seen my quarterly numbers for Branch 42? Record-breaking. I'm ready to take that same killer instinct to the global level." The global CFO, Mr. Thorne, didn't smile. He didn't even look at Liam's hand. "We've seen your numbers, Mr. Sterling. We've also seen your extracurricular expenses." Liam's smile faltered. "Expenses? Oh, marketing. You have to spend money to make money, right? Is that why you billed the company for a pair of white suede pumps from Limeray yesterday?" A voice came from the chair at the head of the table. The voice was cold. It was precise. It was hauntingly familiar. The chair slowly rotated. Liam's heart didn't just stop. It seemed to shrivel in his chest. Sitting there, draped in a bespoke charcoal gray power suit with a 5-carat diamond brooch pinned to her lapel, was Sienna. Her hair was no longer in a messy bun. It was a sleek architectural bob. Her glasses were gone, replaced by eyes that burned with the authority of 1,000 ancestors. "Sienna?" Liam gasped, the word escaping him like a dying breath. He let out a hysterical laugh. What is this? Is this a joke? Are you the new secretary?" "Sit down, Liam," Sienna said. It wasn't a request. The 2 security guards at the door stepped forward, and Liam felt his knees buckle into the chair. "Mr. Sterling," Mr. Thorne said, his voice echoing in the hollow room, "you are addressing Sienna Vanderbilt Nexus, the majority shareholder and chairwoman of this conglomerate. She has been on a 3-year deep dive audit of our domestic branches. You didn't marry an intern, Liam. You married the owner." "No," Liam whispered, looking around at the directors. "No, she's clumsy. She's poor. She lived in a studio apartment with me. She made me tuna sandwiches. I made those sandwiches with imported truffles. You idiot, Sienna said, leaning forward. She tossed a thick file onto the table. But let's talk about your killer instinct. According to these records, you've been diverting 5% of your branch's R&D budget into a private account, an account you used to buy your mistress a Cartier bracelet and your mother a Cadillac. I can explain, Liam stammered, his face turning a sickly shade of gray. Don't bother, Sienna interrupted. She turned to the door. Bring her in. The doors opened, and Chloe was escorted in by a female guard. She looked terrified, her power wife facade crumbling. Sienna, baby, listen, Liam started, reaching toward her. Don't baby me, Sienna snapped. Chloe, tell him. Tell him why you were so eager for him to get the VP promotion. Chloe looked at the floor, trembling. The rival firm, Omnitech. They promised me $1 million finder's fee if I got Liam to sign the merger papers. They knew he was too arrogant to read the fine print. Liam turned to Chloe, his eyes bulging. You were using me? Everyone uses a tool, Liam, Sienna said, her voice dropping to a whisper that cut through the room. The difference is I used my time to see if you were a man of character. You failed. You didn't just fail the marriage. You failed the audit. Sienna stood up. The entire board stood with her. Liam Sterling, as of 5 minutes ago, your deal of the year has been annulled due to fraud. Your assets, including the apartment you so generously gave me in the divorce, have been seized as part of an embezzlement recovery. And because you signed the divorce papers yesterday, you have no claim to the Vanderbilt name or protection. Sienna, please. Liam scrambled out of his chair and hit the floor. He didn't just sit. He fell to his knees, crawling toward the head of the table. I was confused. Chloe seduced me! I still love you. We can tear up the papers! Think of the 3 years. Sienna looked down at him. She felt a flicker of the old love, but it was quickly extinguished by the memory of the smashed cupcake on the break room floor. The 3 years were an investment. Liam, she said, stepping around his reaching hands. And today I'm cutting my losses. She looked at Mr. Thorne. Call the police. I want the grand larceny charges against his mother processed by noon. And tell the security team to escort Mr. Sterling to the sidewalk. Give him his termination box. What's in the box? Liam sobbed. Sienna paused at the door, looking back over her shoulder with a sharp, beautiful smile. A jar of expired vanilla syrup, since you were so worried about the quality of the coffee. As the guards dragged a screaming, pleading Liam out of the boardroom, Sienna felt the weight of 3 years lift off her shoulders. She turned to her brother, Marcus, who was leaning against the wall in the hallway, grinning. That was intense, Marcus said. A bit of a plot twist for him, wouldn't you say? The real twist is just beginning, Sienna said, her eyes flashing. Tell the jet to get ready. I think it's time I took a business trip to Paris. And Marcus? Yeah? Find out who the CEO of Omnitech is. If they wanted a war with a Vanderbilt, I'm happy to give them one. The city of Paris smelled of rain and roasted chestnuts. But inside the gilded halls of the Hotel Plaza Athénée, the air was strictly high stakes. Sienna sat at a corner table in the lounge looking at a file. She was no longer the girl in the apron. She was wearing a sharp, cream-colored Dior dress that made her look like she was carved from moonlight. You know, for someone who just dismantled a man's entire existence, you look remarkably bored, a voice rumbled from behind her. Sienna didn't turn around. She knew that voice. It was deep, smooth, and laced with a playful arrogance that made Liam's ego look like a child's toy. Jackson Thorne, Sienna said, finally closing the file. The CEO of Omnitech. The man who tried to infiltrate my company using a mistress with bad taste in shoes. Jackson stepped into her line of sight. He wasn't the corporate shark she expected. He was younger, with messy dark hair and eyes that crinkled with genuine amusement. He sat down opposite her without waiting for an invite, placing a single, perfectly wrapped macaron on the table between them. In my defense, Jackson said, leaning back, I didn't hire Chloe. My head of acquisitions did. I fired him this morning. I don't like sloppy work. And trying to trick a Vanderbilt is the definition of sloppy. Is that an apology? Sienna asked, raising an eyebrow. It's a peace offering, he replied, gesturing to the macaron. It's raspberry. Your favorite if my research is correct. Sienna paused. You've been researching my dessert preferences? That's a bit stalkerish, Jackson. It's called due diligence. Besides, he leaned in, his voice dropping an octave. I've been watching you for 3 years, Sienna. Not as a target, as a fan. I wanted to see how long you'd play the clumsy intern before you snapped. I actually had a bet with my CFO. I said you'd last 5 years. You're more impatient than I thought. Before Sienna could retort, her phone buzzed. It was a video call from Marcus. She swiped it open, and the screen showed a chaotic scene back in the States. Sienna, you have to see this. Marcus was laughing so hard he could barely speak. The camera flipped to show the front of the Vanderbilt estate. Liam was there, looking like a drowned rat, kneeling in the mud at the gates. Beside him, Brenda was hysterically trying to bargain with the security guard by offering him a plastic container of her famous potato salad. I'm an executive. Liam was screaming at the gate camera. I just need to speak to my wife. We have a history. I helped her with her student loans. You paid 1 month of her interest with her money, you loser. Marcus yelled off-screen. Sienna felt a wave of secondhand embarrassment. She looked at Jackson, who was watching the screen with a grin. Is that the ex? Jackson asked. He's significantly more pathetic than the file suggested. He has a flair for the dramatic, Sienna sighed, clicking the phone off. Tell you what, Jackson said, standing up and offering his hand. Let's make a deal. I help you finish the Omnitech investigation to clear your name of any merger rumors. And in exchange, you let me take you to the Louvre tonight. After hours, just us and the Mona Lisa. Sienna looked at his hand. And why would I do that? Because, Jackson winked, I'm the only billionaire in this city who doesn't want to marry you for your stock options. And because I think you need to remember how to laugh at something that isn't a man's downfall. 2 hours later, Sienna was standing in the silent, moonlit halls of the Louvre. Jackson had pulled strings that only a man with his level of disruptive wealth could pull. You know, Sienna said, her voice echoing off the statues, most people would just take me to dinner. Dinner is for people who have nothing to talk about, Jackson said. He was carrying a hidden bottle of vintage wine and 2 plastic cups he'd swiped from the hotel lobby. Look at this one. The winged victory of Samothrace. Remind you of anyone? Sienna looked at the headless, triumphant goddess. She's missing a head, Jackson. Yeah, but she's still winning. Just like you, he nudged her shoulder. They spent the next hour making fun of the dramatic expressions on the Renaissance paintings. For the first time in years, Sienna wasn't thinking about spreadsheets, or Liam's betrayal, or the weight of her family's crown. She was laughing. Genuinely laughing. At one point, they tried to recreate the pose of a particularly awkward Roman statue. Sienna slipped, actually slipped this time, and Jackson caught her by the waist. The air changed. The comedy vanished, replaced by a sudden electric intensity. You're not a very good intern. Sienna, Jackson whispered, his face inches from hers. I've resigned, she breathed. Good. I hear the position of woman who owns my heart is open. The benefits are terrible, but the boss is very handsome. Sienna was about to lean in when her phone blared a loud, obnoxious alarm. What now? Jackson groaned. Sienna checked the screen. Her eyes went wide. It's the silent alarm at my private safe in New York. Someone's trying to break into the Vanderbilt Trust. The romantic moment shattered. Sienna's face went cold. Liam, he's not just begging. He's desperate. He thinks he can steal the humility vow, documents to prove the divorce was signed under false pretenses. Jackson's eyes darkened. Well, it looks like the Paris vacation is over. My jet is closer. Let's go catch a thief. The flight back across the Atlantic was a blur of blue light and tactical planning. In the plush cabin of Jackson's private jet, Sienna wasn't looking at the Parisian stars anymore. She was watching a live feed thermal map of the Vanderbilt private vault on her laptop. He's not alone, Jackson noted, leaning over her shoulder with a glass of scotch. Look at the heat signatures. That's Liam, his mother, who apparently skipped bail, and a third person. Sienna zoomed in. The third figure was moving with professional precision. That's Chloe's brother. He's an ex-security consultant. They're not just looking for the humility vow documents. They're trying to wipe the server that holds the evidence of Liam's embezzlement. Sienna's jaw tightened. They think they can delete their crimes and sue me for emotional distress before I can officially file the fraud charges. Not on my watch, Jackson said, tapping a command on his own device. I just locked the vault from the outside. They aren't breaking in anymore. They're trapped in a 40-ton steel box with no air conditioning. When the jet touched down at Teterboro, a fleet of black SUVs was already waiting. Sienna and Jackson arrived at the Vanderbilt building at 3 a.m. The vault room was deep underground. As the heavy doors hissed open, the scene inside was pure comedy disguised as a crime. Liam was covered in drywall dust, frantically trying to smash a server rack with a gold-plated golf trophy he'd brought from home. Brenda was sitting on a pile of cash bags, trying to stuff a handful of loose diamonds into her socks, and Chloe's brother was slumped against the wall, having realized the electronic lock was unbreakable. Having a productive evening, Liam? Sienna's voice echoed in the cavernous room. Liam spun around, his eyes wild. Sienna, this is a misunderstanding. I left my lucky cufflinks here. In a locked vault? At 3 a.m? Jackson stepped into the light, crossing his arms. That's some impressive sleepwalking, Sterling. You! Liam pointed a shaking finger at Jackson. You're the one who stole her. You seduced my wife with your fancy jet and your French macarons. Actually, Liam, I think you unseduced her when you threw a cupcake at her feet, Jackson replied dryly. Sienna stepped forward, her heels clicking on the reinforced floor. Brenda, take the diamonds out of your socks. They're tracked with GPS. You'll be lucky if the police let you keep your shoes. Brenda let out a wail, dumping the gems back onto the floor. Sienna, darling, it was Liam's idea. He said we were reclaiming our marital assets. There are no assets left for you, Brenda, Sienna said, looking at Liam with a cold, final pity. The humility vow document you were looking for? It's not a legal loophole. It's a record of every cent I spent on you for 3 years. It's a receipt for your life. And tonight I'm marking it paid in full. Sienna signaled the waiting officers. As they were handcuffed, Liam fell to his knees one last time. This wasn't a rom-com kneel. It was the collapse of a man who realized he had tried to rob a dragon's hoard with a plastic spoon. I'll fix it, Sienna. I'll go to therapy. We can start over in the studio apartment. The studio apartment has been turned into a public library. Liam, Sienna said, turning her back. I suggest you spend your time there learning how to read a contract. 1 week later, the Nexus Global Annual Gala. The room was filled with the glitterati of New York. Liam was a ghost story, a cautionary tale whispered over champagne. The lights dimmed and the announcer's voice boomed. Please welcome the chairwoman of Nexus Global, Sienna Vanderbilt Nexus, and her guest, Mr. Jackson Thorne. Sienna walked out onto the stage, wearing a gown of liquid gold that seemed to glow from within. She looked out at the sea of faces, people who had ignored her when she was an intern, and who now looked at her with awe. Success isn't measured by the height of your building, Sienna said into the microphone, her voice steady and powerful. It's measured by the depth of the foundation you build when no one is watching. For 3 years I watched. I learned who was loyal, who was greedy, and who was worth the investment. She looked at Jackson, who was watching her from the front row with a look of pure admiration. The trial is over, she concluded, and the empire is just getting started. As the applause thundered, Jackson stepped up to the stage, whispering in her ear, So, does this mean I get a second date? Without the high-speed chases? Sienna laughed, a bright, genuine sound that filled the ballroom. Maybe, but I'm still the chairwoman, Jackson. You'll have to check with my assistant. And who's that? Sienna smiled, looking toward the back of the room where a young, bright-eyed girl was holding a clipboard, the new intern. Sienna had personally hired. The future, Sienna said.